Hello, dear ones. It's Maria with you. Today is April 22nd, 2022, and I would like to talk to you today about Dolores Cannon's book. First, just a reminder that I have videos in English, Portuguese, and Spanish. I'm leaving on the description of this live stream the link for the playlist of all my videos in English. Let's go to a little summary. We are created by God like Himself. We are a beautiful thought in the mind of God. When we incarnate in this body, only part of our consciousness come and incarnate on the body. The other remain with God and has the knowledge of everything. That's what we call our higher self. And our higher self is always trying to guide us to the best next steps towards our mission, what you came here to do. So Dolores Cannon, she started to use a hypnosis technique. She developed hypnosis technique that was a little bit different from what the other professionals were doing. And she was able to put the clients, the subjects, in a deep trance. And because they were in a deep trance, the ego mind, the conscious mind, would step aside and the higher self will come forth and would speak to her and would tell everything that the person needs to know to get in alignment with her mission. And also, one thing that is important to explain is when you go to a hypnosis therapy, your higher self is always in control. For example, if you go to they choose which past life they're gonna show you, and it's always for a purpose. They will not allow you to access part and information that will be more damage for you than helpful. So it's really important to choose, if you're choosing this kind of help, to choose a person that you trust. Go follow your intuition. That will be your higher self speaking to you. This one will be safe. So, and also when during the hypnosis, if you are going to a place where you're not supposed to go, the higher self would immediately cut the connection and the person will just woke up. So it's kind of safe. So let's just go back. Let me talk a little bit about Dolores Cannon. She started really going deep in this work after her 40s, after her kids was grown up and she feel like kind of retired. What are you gonna do now? So she started to doing this work, and then she got to live more than 80 years. So she was more than 40 years doing this work, and she left 19 books, and she had a beautiful participation on another book. Those are the books that I wanted to share with you. I'm not gonna give you a detailed summary of each book. What I want to give you is a general understanding of what you can expect from the book to get you inspired to read the book yourself. I think for me it was important that I read each book and took the time to digest the information, because it's really, there's a book that will really expand your consciousness. I think for me there was one Maria before I started reading her books and another Maria after I finished reading her books. And it was she has 20 books and I cannot pick the top 5. I think all her books really worth to read. And I read all of them in about I think 7 or 8 months. Of course, I use the audiobook because I didn't have that much time. I made a presentation for you. Let me just decrease my screen. And before I recorded something that I thought I was showing the screen, but I wasn't, so I'm kind of recording again. I split I'm gonna do 3 presentations because I try to separate them in categories, and all the books that related to extraterrestrial knowledge, I wanted to put it together. So the next presentation will be quite big because she has 10 books that's all about extraterrestrial knowledge. Today I'm gonna start with those. Let me start the presentation. That's all her books. Amazing. And this one is the book that she has the participation. 2012, Create Your One Shift. So let's go. This one is the first one, 5 Lives Remembered. This book was the first one that she has written, but was not the first one she published. This book, she did the therapies with the hypnosis sessions in the very beginning with her husband, and there was a lady that she was having some health issues and she was overweight, and she wanted to look in past lives to see if there was an explanation why she couldn't lose weight. So they started to investigate her previous lives, and then she regretted she was in one life, so they regretted to a second life going backwards, and then the third life. Sometimes she would go in between lives, and that was like startled, wow. And then she started describing what she would see there in the other side. So they were really amazed with that. And then they regret to the 4th life, and then the 5th life. And then when they attempted to regret her to the 6th life, and then she just said, oh, describe where you are. Oh, I'm nowhere and I'm everywhere. I feel so much love. And she was describing source. She was a young soul that was created to incarnate in earth. When you leave source for the first time, you have the soul matrix for that place that you are going. In this case, in her case, her soul matrix is for the earth, and she was just living her 5th life at that moment. And they were just amazing. Wow, that's the first time that somebody really described their perception of God in a way that we never had experienced before. But they just kind of archive that information at that time, and then she just move on and take care of her kids. And after the kids grew up, and then she saw herself with a lot of free time, and she decided to go back to this work. And then that's when everything began. And she regretted thousands of people, and because she was able to put them in a deep trance, they would go back to previous lives in Earth, in other planets, in other galaxies, in other dimensions. They would go in between life. And then they would give all the knowledge that they had through her books, through the sessions, and then she would compile the books. I'm pretty sure she planned this work before her incarnation. And all those times she started over 40 years old. She was just getting herself prepared really to start this work, and she got to live more than 80 years. So she was doing this work more than 40 years. That's really amazing. As I told you, you cannot pick the top 5 books. And then she made a book dedicated only for the knowledge, when people would tell what they would the description that they will see in between lives. And what they realized was, when you go to a between life, of course, at this point, I think you already know that you are not a body. You are a consciousness, and you exist before you come to the body. You continue to exist after you leave the body. So when you leave the body, where you go depend on the level of consciousness that you have. When you die, you go to different places. I heard somewhere as the house of God has many rooms. So depend on where you go, it depend on where your conscience is, you will go to different places. But all those places, everybody that's already in those places, they are vibrating at least in the 5th dimension. They remember who they are. They are one with God, and they are bound by unconditional love. So when they would receive people that are coming from the incarnation, they would not do not judge them. There was unconditional love. They felt like going back home. And yes, they will have their life review, see where they could done different choices, but everything was seen as experience, and there was no judgment. That's a very, very interesting book if you wanted to understand more about. It's an amazing book. And then you have A Soul Remember Hiroshima. That tells the story of a young lady that she saw a news on the TV about Hiroshima, and she got like what they call deja vu. She had some flashes of memory, and then she's looked for Dolores for the past life therapy to see if that would make any sense. So Dolores was regretting her going back life to life until they get used to each other, until the time that the lady was a young boy living in Japan, close to Hiroshima. And then she described all her life and all the bond with her family, wife and kids, and he was just an amazing soul, amazing consciousness. You really fall in love with him. And he tells his own perspective, how he perceived this World War II. And one thing that strike me that he says is, for me, the Americans were not my enemies. My enemies was the Japanese soldiers that would come to my farm and destroy my crops and steal my livestock and destroy my livelihood. They were my enemies. And at the time that the bomb happened, he was there. And there was really a traumatic thing because people didn't die right away. They were in a deep suffering for days, some weeks. And there was very emotion. I purposely was saved that book for last because I knew it would be emotional, but it's not a drama all the time, the really drama, the emotional part is really described only in the end of the book, but you really fall in love with him, and it's really open your awareness to what's really important in life. What's really important in life. That's really amazing. So that's okay. And then we have this one, the sacred knowledge, the search for hidden sacred knowledge. Secret knowledge. So throughout history, there were many knowledge that was kept, written. Sometimes it was like some tools, some equipments, or just written knowledge in scrolls or in other types of material. And many communities and people that were entrusted to hold those knowledge safe through eons, through thousands of years. Some of those knowledge would come from ancient civilizations like Lemurian, Atlantis, and many knowledge also from the time of Jesus. Many books from the time of Jesus, especially the information that was written through Mary Magdalene, they were all hidden because they know they will not be accepted by the church, and they will just destroy. And many information, those sacred knowledge, and many of the powers of being, they wanted that information to use to manipulate the people. Do you know that today, right now on earth, there are people that are able to teletransport? Did you know that Jesus was able to teletransport? Do you know that Joseph, his father, was able to teletransport? They knew all those knowledge. Because Jesus grew up in a community, they scenes like that they used to guard some of those knowledge, and they will pass through generations, and Jesus has access to that, and he learned how to do those things. So, but it's very important to keep it safe. As I explained before, more you rise your vibration, more close you get, your conscience get to God, to unconditional love, more access you have to information. But some of those informations are written, so a person that's still in a low vibration, working for self, if they get hold of that information, they would be able to learn and use those skills for bad, to manipulate other people. For example, imagine that a person that is a serial killer would be able to teletransport. What kind of damage he would be able to do. So this should not be allowed to happen. So that's why those knowledge were kept safe. This book is really, it's astonishing, all the information that's in there. I am just saying it's amazing. It's amazing that it really came forth. And a very interesting thing about Dolores Cannon's information is I've been reading many materials from different sources, and every time that subject, I forgot the word, but every time that I read about the same subject, sometimes it's just described in a slightly different way, but it's never contradict. It's always confirm each other. Different sources confirm each other. Sources that didn't know each other. I'm talking about Dolores Cannon book and other types of information from other channels, from other things. And Dolores also, she realized that she did a therapy with people throughout the whole world. And a person in England would tell her about something, and another in Australia would tell the same thing, just using different words. So that's the way that she really could validate. And she was also a researcher, so many of those things that she was able to gather more information, she would research after the book, after the sessions was done, because she didn't want to be influenced. And then she would I forgot the name. She would realize that those things was really written in history, was there, and many of those things she included in the book, in all her books. So that's all I decided to do today, because I want to do all the extraterrestrial knowledge books together. So next time it will be a longer presentation. And just as I told, sometimes you would regret people that instead of go back to a previous life on Earth, they would go to a previous life in other planets, other galaxies, other dimensions, or even spaceships. And another thing that happened a lot was sometimes people would miss time in their current life, or they would have some dreams about extraterrestrials, and then they would go to her and then they would ask her to investigate, and she would do it, and then they would realize, yes, they were abducted or they had a extraterrestrial visitation, but most of the time was the good it is, and they had some relationship with them. Their soul had some relationship with them. So that's all for today. I hope I really get you inspired to start reading her books. As I told you, it will really expand your consciousness. If you are curious to know who you are, what is God, where you came from, and what you are doing here, her books is a good place to start. What I am doing on my videos, I'm just trying to give you a little summary of what I have learned, and I have been exposed to many knowledge from different sources, and I kind of putting the dots together, linking the dots. And my videos are very brief. It's like up to 40 minutes, but usually 20 minutes. And my idea is not really to give you a lecture, to teach you things. It's more to give you some curiosity for you to do your own research. And there are simple things that I'm learned, that things that you can do like in 1 minute, 2 minutes, that will really make your life a little easier. And I make a lot of videos and explain those things. So that's all I had for today. Much love and light to you, and thank you for watching my video. If you haven't done so, please share and subscribe.